안녕하세요, 여러분. Korean Study Junkie입니다. 하지만 준이라고 합니다. You can call me Junie. We're back again with another lesson, another this versus that lesson, as I like to call it. So if you stumbled upon this video, or if you went searching it out, you're probably feeling confused about why sometimes Koreans use je, why they sometimes use ne, or why they sometimes even use 우리, which is supposed to mean we or us or our, right? So let's get into it. Let's first talk about when we're even going to use my, right? So we can use the regular my that we know and love, the je, the ne, right? We can use that. It's perfectly fine to use it in all cases. So here are the different possessive forms we could use for this. So je, which is a contraction of choe, contraction. So you could use the uncontracted form. That's usually in writing or more formal things, or you use the more contracted form, which is usually in speaking. And this one is considered to be formal and casual. So you can use it for any formal ending sentences or any casual ending sentences. And then ne, which is a contraction of nae, my, but I mean they're all my, but so this is the informal one, considered to be informal. Although some Koreans still use the casual ending with my, with this ne, my form, which is fine. So you can mix and match a little bit. And then these are a little different, but ni, it looks like ne, but it's pronounced as ni, and this means your. This is the informal version of it. It can also be considered a casual version of it. Let me actually write that. I'll say casual / informal. And then the formal of your, 당신의, your formal. As for the pronunciation of this, we can see it's used a lot here. The possessive particle, which is ui. When it's on its own, it's pronounced ui, like kind of same as you'd read it. Ui. Same as you'd read it. And then usually when it's attached to something else, it's pronounced more like e. choe. Instead of joey, nae, 당신의, which is nice because it's much easier to pronounce. So obviously, it's a possessive particle whenever you need to claim an object as your own. 제 가방, my bag. Or if we're doing the uncontracted form, 저의 가방, 제 자전거, my bicycle, my bike, 저의 자전거, 내 신발, 나의 신발, 내 신발, my shoes, 내 침대, 나의 침대, my bed. You can also use this for people that, not related to you, like friends, of course. You might have heard this a lot. 제 친구, my friend or my friends. Korean language, they do have a plural marker, which is 들, 제 친구들, but you don't have to use the plural marker because like 친구 could mean friend or it could mean more than one friend. It could mean multiple friends. It's usually just up to the context. 내 친구, my friend, my friends, same thing, same meaning, just the feeling might change a little bit of, depending on who you're using it with, you have to change. 제 선생님, my teacher. So claiming non-family related individuals that only you have. So if you're in a group and let's say your Korean friend walks up and asks if the person next to you is your friend, and if you're saying yes, then you say 네, 제 친구예요. Yes, this is my friend, right? But let's say you have more than one person next to you. You have like 3 people next to you, and all of you are friends with each other. So they walk up and ask, "Oh, are you friends?" And you can't say 제 친구 because more than one person has, quote unquote, has that friend, right? It's only you who has it. Otherwise, you have to say 우리 친구, our friend, right? If it's teacher, if you're like in a class, it's 우리 선생님's, our teacher, not just yours. So that's one thing to be careful of. If you have a pet that's yours and yours alone, then you can also do 제 and 내. But let's say more than one person raises or takes care of this pet, then you shouldn't use this. 제 강아지, my puppy, 내 고양이, my cat. Okay. Another situation which you can use 제 and 내 is when you're claiming a place that you live that only you live in. 제 아파트, my apartment, 내 집, my house. So if you live alone, that's great. But if you live with your family, for instance, 우리 집, 우리 아파트 is more appropriate. So in summary, when you and you alone are in possession of something, I put quotes on possession because sometimes it's a person and we can't really possess a person, but in possession of something or someone, you can use my. Now, when do we use 우리 as my? Once it's not just yours, you have to upgrade it to 우리, as I was saying earlier. So 우리, although translated as we or us, or in a possessive sense, ours, once you transcend that point of something not only belonging to you, then you use 우리. So sometimes it gets translated as my as well in those cases. So when do we use this? When do we use 우리 as my? When we're referring to family members, 우리 엄마, my mom. So even only children with no siblings would use this. 우리 엄마. That might seem weird, but yeah. 우리 오빠. Usually women would use 오빠 for older brother, and men would use 형 for older brother. 우리 오빠, 우리 형, 우리 할아버지, my grandfather, 우리 가족, my family, 우리 부모, 우리 부모님, my parents. So why do they do that? Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't tell you why they do that. But it does happen quite often, and it does feel much more natural in Korean to say 우리 in this circumstance than 제. Like 제 엄마, even if you're an only child in this case. Like I know we said before, if it's something only you have, but this is an exception to that. Okay, so the next circumstance when you can use 우리 instead is when you're referring to a place that you and at least one other person lives in. As we said before, 우리 집, 우리 아파트. Although it might still be translated as my house, my apartment, we're using 우리 to show that we're not living alone. It's kind of like if we think about it, like in English, when you're talking about your house to someone that's like not related to you, you still might say my, even though maybe you don't own the house. Maybe you're not even the head of the house. Maybe you just live with your family. You still would say, this is my house, my, but we do all live there together. So another circumstance when you can use it is when you and some other person owns something or, has possession of something or someone in a case like that. So, 우리 선생님, my teacher, our teacher. So let's say that you and your friend have the same class with the same teacher. In this conversation, you might be talking to someone who is not in that class and doesn't know that teacher, an outsider. So you might say 우리, right? 우리 강아지, my dog, our dog. Same thing we were saying before. You and at least one other person takes care of this dog. Same thing for children. Like, let's say a mom is talking to another mom friend that they're meeting. Maybe this is their first time meeting, actually. They'll say 우리 아들, my son, 우리 딸, my daughter. But even though the other partner isn't present at that moment, they'll still say 우리 아들. You might see, if you like K-pop, you might see in interviews or live streams, they use 우리 plus the person's name to, it feels like they're referring to them sweetly. It feels like more intimate. Maybe that's what I was trying to think of earlier. It feels more familiar. It kind of expresses some closeness, right? Like 우리 수호, 우리 민준, 우리 준아. That's a little bit different from this though. So some cultural notes we can talk about. Even when you're talking about your spouse to someone else, you want to use 우리. And that may seem weird, but that is how it goes. So my wife, 우리 아내, 우리 와이프, my wife or my husband. 우리 남편. Why is it that way? I don't know. And this last one, 우리 부부. This one feels weird because 부부, it means like a married couple. But I feel like if you translated it, it would probably say our couple. But I feel like when it's actually used, let's say you're one half of a married couple, let's say you're a wife and you're talking about your husband, you and your husband doing something together, you can say 우리 부부 blah 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 blah. Like me and my husband is what it would, more likely translate to. Or me and my husband, my wife and I, my husband and I, that's what it translates to. So this is what I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, which was it's different from my, but using 우리 in like an endearing way. When you refer to someone that you and others know, usually like a group of people, like teammates, classmates, colleagues, group mates, roommates, whatever, any type of mates in a group of people, you can use it to be a little bit endearing. So 우리 Kim, 우리 지민, 우리 Kim, 우리 지민, our Kim, our Jimin. So it's not really saying my, but I thought it would be good to throw this in here because it is used quite a bit. So how do we know when it's my and not ours in that case? Context is the answer, and I know a lot of us hate to hear it, but Korean really is just a really contextual, context-heavy kind of language. And that means that a lot of the times, you gotta depend on the context to know what's going on. So, same in this case. Here's an example. Let's say you want to say my house, but you still live with your parents. Then you're going to use 우리, right? If you want to say our house, you still use 우리 in that circumstance. So it's not even a problem. But a lot of times the context of the conversation will let you understand whether the person you're talking with wants to say my or our, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter much because the other person will still understand you. Usually you'll know either way that they're with another person or they own something with another person, they live with them, they're related, something of that nature. Which is, if you think about it, is kind of cool because, yeah, it's like without really adding any extra detail to it, if I just say 우리 엄마 or if I just say 우리 집, then you automatically know, oh, she probably lives with someone else, right? Or if I say 우리 강아지, probably this isn't just her puppy or her dog, or it's kind of cool. You don't have to add all the extra talking with it to get that across. But yeah, that's the end of this lesson. I don't know how good this lesson was, but I tried my best. And I know these lessons aren't the prettiest looking ever. I don't know what the thumbnail will look like, but I would always try to make the thumbnail look good because that does take time, but it was not gonna take as much time as it would take me to actually make a fully fleshed out video with animations and transitions, and this is easier for me. I'd rather be consistent first, and then maybe if it goes well, we can switch it up and make it look prettier. But for now, please leave a comment if you made it this far. If you learned anything, I would love to hear about it. If you're confused, have questions, please leave those below. I'll do my best to answer them in a timely manner. Leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm gonna be making a lot more of these types of videos, breaking down the difference between concepts like this in Korean. And I will leave this lesson linked below. The lesson comes from my website, my blog. I do a lot of free lessons over there. I have way more. Like if you follow me on Instagram and you know me from Korean Study Junkie Instagram, I have way more lessons that I don't post on Instagram over there as well. And I'm always trying to post consistently on everywhere. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. 잘 가요.